told us about that yesterday, actually, because I think that's from like, I don't know, when did smartphones come out? Like 15 years ago? Yeah.
2007. That's the date where Facebook came live and the world changed.
Yes, it totally did. And yeah, I got my first smartphone and I didn't know how to name it. And so I wrote the phone with no name, and it has never gone away since. So
I thought you were being secure.
No,
just cheeky.
Just goofy.
Well, thank you so much for being willing to be on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
Just looking at your website and the books that you have out right now that you have soon to come out. You have 1 published and 2 on the way, right?
I have 2 published.
2 published.
And wait, I have 5 altogether.
5 altogether. Okay.
Yeah. So I have I had a picture book biography come out last year about Gloria Steinem. And then this year I had a chapter book come out, which is a kind of a combination of historical fiction and fiction. And then I have a middle grade novel coming out in September. And then next year I have 2 more books coming out.
Are you allowed to talk about the one coming out in September?
Yes. Yes.
That's one about a firefighter, right? The first female New York City firefighter?
That's actually coming out in March of next year.
So I wasn't allowed to mention that one at all.
No, you can. Everything right now, everything right now is public. If it's on my website, then you can talk about it.
So you like historical fiction? Is that where you?
I do. Yeah. I do. I didn't start with that.
Mm-hmm.
I started mostly with fiction, and in reality, fiction is really where my heart is. But the biography was kind of an unexpected opportunity, and I loved it. And I have really loved working on the second one about Brenda Berkman, which is the firefighter. It's about women getting into the fire department in New York City. And I've worked with her, like she's been part of this whole process. Yeah. And so that's been an absolute blast. It's been really cool.
Does she still work for the city?
She still lives in the city, and she is, she's an activist. She does all kinds of organizing and advocacy for women and firefighters and things like that. She actually just, I don't know if you know about it. I know you live in New York, but there's, they're about to unveil the first woman monument in Central Park.
Oh no, I did not know that. Is it going to be of her?
Yeah, it's not of her, but she's one of the women that helped organize the whole thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So she does a lot of stuff like that now.
Well, the blurb said that she is the first woman firefighter in New York City.
Yeah, she like professional. There were some volunteer firefighters many years ago, but historically the New York City Fire Department really didn't let women in, even after the civil rights, movement with discrimination and everything in the workplace. They kind of kept it quiet. They didn't make it real well known that women could apply and join. And so Brenda was one of the first in a group of women who, when they finally said, okay, women can apply, go ahead, give it your best shot.
I mean, is that different nowadays? I mean, I don't think, you walk by a firehouse and you see all men, basically.
Yeah,
where are the women?
For sure. In New York City, it's still a very small percentage of women that are in the department. But Brenda actually sued the fire department to get women in there because they had created this whole crazy test to essentially keep women out. And she was a lawyer and she wanted the job and she fought it and she won. And then she was a firefighter for about 25 years. She was, it was a career for her. So her story is amazing. Her story is really amazing, but it is definitely, for sure, women are not represented very much in the department in New York City. They are much more in other cities in the country, but I think New York still is a bit of that.
Yeah, that physical toll is amazing, isn't it?
Very physical toll, and
I mean, just recently they allowed women into combat arms too, right? And the same kind of argument occurred.
Exactly.
Can they handle the physical toll?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm a man. I don't know if I could be in the infantry, let alone. I mean, I was in the Army. I know what it's like to be in, baby infantry. But the people who actually earn that little blue circle, they do some hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
And the firefighters are the same way, right? I mean, the stuff they have to do, it's not just like.
They do, but at the same time, a company works really well when you have people of various skill and ability, because you need to have small people to get into small places.
Very true.
You know, you need to have people that can think differently about the problem solving. It's not always about fighting fires. Like, you know, firemen or firefighters are called to do all kinds of things. So when you have
nowadays, right, they're talking about,
yeah,
what is that new thing that they're talking? Have you been following the Black Lives Movement and what they're thinking about doing with the police force? There's
yeah,
a term that they're using. It's a weird term. It's not like a normal, but they're using a sociologist and a nurse to go out in place of cops to be like the first firing line
responders.
or
Yeah,
responders. Thank you. I can't remember what it's
yeah.
called though. Something weird like Wiggly Squad or something like that.
I follow it lightly. I don't follow it enough to speak on it, but I do know that the idea behind it is that they put programs in place where exactly that, where you have other people responding to situations and community programs dealing with things so that police officers don't have to respond to every single
thing.
Like there's other people that can handle some of these situations.
I see a box in the middle of the road, I call a cop. I see a dog on the side of the road, I call a cop. It's like, what job don't these poor guys have to do? It's exhausting. It's exhausting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Your bio says that you're South Jersey, or did you move?
I'm originally New Jersey. I was living in my husband and I lived in Frenchtown, New Jersey, which is about an hour from you, like straight across the state on the Delaware River.
Beautiful Gap.
Yes,
right?
and
that beautiful
we
little
loved
mountainy
it.
area. Oh my God.
Yep, we loved it there, but
Mountains, actually.
yeah, yep, and so I lived in New Jersey and Pennsylvania most of my life, but we actually just moved to West Virginia. So I'm currently in West Virginia in the mountains.
I lived in West Virginia myself too for a good.
Did you really? Where?
Years, yeah, Huntington. On the Ohio
It's
River.
funny.
Where are you guys?
We're in the Eastern Panhandle, so we're almost in Virginia, really.
It's nice over there. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. Yeah.
And you teach school as well.
Yeah, I teach in an MFA program with Sierra Nevada University, which is on Lake Tahoe, and that's it's like a low residency program. So you go out there twice a year, you teach intensively for about 10 days, and then you come home and you work with your students one-on-one.
What is the MFA in?
Writing.
Good.
Yeah.
Something about sociology popped up, didn't it? I just find it interesting that your writing is very geared towards empowerment, right? Gloria Steinem is one of those characters as well. Why does her name ring so strongly in my mind? What did she do historically?
Well, or I should say she became an icon for the feminist movement of the 60s and 70s. She was not the sole facilitator of everything, but she became widely like the face of it. And she's an amazing woman. She's still alive. I didn't get to work with her for that biography, but so she's too much of like a celebrity status.
Did you reach out to her?
We tried. I tried to reach out, but you have to reach out to her office. You can't get her personally, and I was not granted an interview or anything, so I had to work on my own. But she is a prolific writer, and so there's just countless articles and books and all kinds of things that she's done that I was talk about primary sources. I just pulled right from her work to develop that biography. But
I bet there's tons of people that have done work on her though that would be willing to talk about her specifically. But it was easy to pull sources, babe. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yes, because she's got so much stuff out there. She's one of the most articulate people. Not that I've met her, but she's one of the most articulate people I think that I've read about or listened to. She's really amazing.
Well,
she's such an inspiring person.
These two specific works stand out, right? I see that is there another fantasy about the Titanic on your book list as well. Is there more feminist type literature that you've worked on, or are you plan on working on in the future?
Well,
you said civil rights, right? And I think it's completely fascinating because we're right now in an era where we're kind of addressing that again, aren't we?
Yeah, we totally are.
What it what it lined up with, what it produced. It's not good, right? I mean, the civil rights.
Well, and what's next? I think it's what's next. I think one of the things that a lot of people, I think, feel like, oh, well, we already dealt with slavery, or we already dealt with segregation, or we already dealt with the women's movement. But the reality is that we're constantly evolving. You know, there's always something that needs to continue to change. It's never a once and done thing. You know, you can pass laws that say, you know, you can't discriminate, but people still discriminate. I mean, it's not like it doesn't erase the problem.
Exactly. I mean,
And
you're living
so,
in a state right now that used to do it, not just even on racial lines, by last name, right? Hatfields and McCoy. I mean, that's famous
right.
down there on the
Yeah.
border of Kentucky and West Virginia. I mean, they used
Hmm.
to fight each other
Absolutely.
based on who their parents were
Right.
and what they did
Yeah.
for generations, for about 100 years. I mean, it just ended.
I'm sure it still goes on. There was actually just
Yeah.
a documentary that came out a little while ago called The Wild, Wonderful Whites of West Virginia.
Okay.
Oh my God. Like as a new resident of the state, and you know,
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed getting to learn some of the history of it, but it's
West
frightening.
Virginia's great. West Virginia is great. I have my dad's family came from the coal country, you know, black lung disease and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he just pulled himself out by going to into the military. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that's either you had military or you had athletics. And my other uncle was a really great athlete. You know, he went and played quarterback for Kentucky State or something like that. And they
Mm-hmm.
both just crawled their way out of that poverty because it's just
Yeah.
really just
Oh, it's
bad
terrible. It's so
poverty.
terrible here.
It's like you drive
Yeah.
around there, and that's what I discovered now as a post, you know, I got my bachelor's in English and I'm always writing, and that's basically what I was doing then. It's just looking at it as a story, and I just wondered how do all these people afford cars? There's no jobs. You can do telemarketing, you can do customer service, and everybody's driving around. Where are they getting the money at? I just had no idea.
uh,
That's how poverty stricken Huntington is
well,
anyway.
yeah. Oh, it is. Well, where I am, it's not terrible. We're near a little town called Moorfield, and Moorfield is kind of the county center, I guess.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's like the big city. There's a Walmart there, and you know, a Food Lion and Tractor Supply. So basically, everybody from the county and surrounding counties, they come to Moorfield to get stuff, and so by standards of the area, it's like a little bit more. I don't want to say prolific, but it's a little bit more prolific. It's not like Appalachia, the way people, you know, stereotype Appalachia.
That's typical for a reason, right? I mean, you drive out there, there's nothing.
Totally. There is
Roads are
definitely,
dangerous, and
yeah, there's a lot of areas where it's really, like we have not explored most of the state. We've really only explored this little panhandle area, but there's definitely a lot of poverty around the state for sure. There's no
why West
question.
Virginia? Why'd you pick that area of the country?
It wasn't entirely intentional. We didn't really want to leave New Jersey, but we can't afford New Jersey. And so,
Interesting, because West Virginia has one of the highest per capita like writer populations in the entire country.
really,
Yeah, I work for a publisher in Huntington, Publisher's Place. They were a vanity press, which isn't a good thing, but I work for them anyway in their marketing department. And basically, he told me that there are more authors living in West Virginia than anywhere else in the country, and that's
wow.
exactly the reason right there. Is it's just more affordable.
Well, yeah, it's more affordable, so you can continue your craft, and still be okay. You know, not be forced to hit the grind like everyone in New Jersey is like commuting to the city and commuting to Philly, and
It rubs you
that's
down. It
it's
rubs you
just too
down.
much. Yeah, and my husband is also a children's author and
Oh, okay.
teacher, so we do the same thing, and we knew it would be a sacrifice as far as location. You know, we're not accessible
That's the
but to many
interesting
people.
thing, right? I mean, being remote, is it giving up anything? Because you said there's a Walmart. Go to
Well,
Walmart, it's
yeah,
everything you
there's
could
a
possibly
Walmart.
ever want.
That's about it.
Um,
It's a, we
I
do we have to
I've
give
lived
up
in
a
some
bit
pretty
of
remote
culture.
places, man. You could fetishize Walmart pretty significantly.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, you know, we sacrificed living in a town that we could walk around and get everything we need,
Yeah.
and being near a lot of friends and family and things like that. But at the same time, like talk about the timing with the pandemic. You
Hmm.
know, we're isolated, but we have 7 acres, and we have vegetable gardens and flower gardens, and our dogs can run around, and we have 6 kids together, but most of them are graduated, so the kids come and go. And as far as like quarantining, is that a word?
Yes,
um
we can use it as
it's
one.
been pretty easy on us because like everything we need is right here. You know, we're not stuck in an apartment anymore. You know, It's just different. And so that is peace. That part of it is very peaceful. It's very
New York
quiet.
did New York did quarantine very, very easily. The rest of the country seems to be having a problem with it, but we're like, okay, fine, we'll just stay in our apartments.
It's so true. Although you say easy, but at the same time, I think the emotional aspect of it had to be crazy for a lot of people.
Said, that grind that we have to deal with is just exhausting. And the years that go by that you do it, and then somebody says, okay, guess what? Now you have no excuse to take a break, and everyone went, oh, okay. That shit sucked. I'm just gonna take a break for a couple months, no problem at all.
Yeah,
that's how I felt anyway. And that's what my wife was like that. I was like, what? I don't have to go to work. Okay, I'm good to go. You know, just life became easy for a second. Besides the fact that you couldn't find toilet paper for some reason, and alcohol, and not the stuff you drink but you wipe with. I just like there was weird things going on that messed with your head. The city is like completely screwed up right now.
Is it? I was gonna say, is it moving now?
No, I don't know what it's doing. It's freaking out. I was living in East Village for most of the quarantine, and it just turned slowly into this zombie scape. Just people are just ambling around, these homeless people, like, where are you coming from? Where are you doing? And that's even like, it's happening in the Upper West Side right now, supposedly as well. It's really bad. People are being harassed for change, and your heart breaks. They just went through hell, There was an awful experience for people who had apartments and food. These people didn't have an apartment. They were standing in line places to get scraps. It's like just hell on earth for a lot of people.
It's awful. It really is very apocalyptic.
Right? And it's like hopefully over with, but now they're saying maybe not, right? What is going to happen in the future? What we have to deal with civil rights. We have to deal with the subject that you're discussing. We have to have a Gloria Steinem, don't we? This woman who was the first firefighter on the NY, FD, she wasn't treated fairly, right? She probably didn't get as much.
Oh God, no.
Right? I mean, she was treated awfully and harassed. And if you want to keep your spot on the squad or whatever the hell, I mean, it's just like normal behavior for so many decades.
Yeah, absolutely. Brenda's story is, and of course, I'm writing for children, so it's a toned down version of all of the things that happened to her.
Because you have Gloria Steinem, like she's producing her work, what catapulted her to fame in an environment that's not PG, G. It's not a G environment. It's
she
X,
can she can say, and Brenda too. Brenda as an activist now, she can say and do and push, and it's a little bit different when you're writing for kids because you want to get a point across, but you're also telling a story. That's it's the combination of the two. One of the most difficult things I struggled with Brenda's story was the fact that when she and the first class, I guess you'd say, of women that were admitted into the department, and they were all over the place. There was like Brenda was by herself with her company, but many of them were sexually assaulted. They had death threats. Men would empty their oxygen tanks. I mean, it was all kinds of awful stuff that, like, I want to encourage young girls to know it's okay. Like, they can be firefighters, but do I want to tell them they might have a death threat?
Right. I mean, that's the thing at the same time. It's like, you could, I tell my daughter that I tell her all the time, she can't do something because she's a girl, just to make her mad. It's like, it's ludicrous. You could be a firefighter, but you have to deal with the fact that somebody might murder you for wanting to be a firefighter.
You might have to deal with some really heavy stuff. Yeah.
There was a woman, she was playing arena ball. It was an interesting story. She actually was on the team, and she never actually played, unfortunately. They put her in one play, and it was just the one time I was watching arena football. It just happened, or maybe it was a streaming video that I saw on YouTube or something. And she got the ball. They handed it off to her. She was going to retire. It was her last time in arena football. They gave her the football, and she hit the line. It was real triumph. Everybody's like, yeah, she bounced off. And all of a sudden, this dude from the opposing team just creamed her. The worst hit I've ever seen in my life. Like, smeared this woman on the field. Like, why'd you do that? Just let her run the ball, right? That's the attitude.
Wow.
But the opposite of, if that was a man, he would have hit him just as hard. You know what I mean? You're not a real running back unless you get hit hard like that and get up again. If you don't have the oxygen, you have to check your tank before you go on the fire. What's the thing that you tell the girl? how to avoid
Yeah.
getting creamed like that on that football field. Prepare for it, because that
Yeah.
dude's not going to soften his head. He's going to come at you. You need to check your oxygen, because nobody's going to be there to check it for you. Go in that
Mm-hmm.
building with no oxygen, you're screwed. It takes time to empty oxygen tanks,
Yeah.
right? So you have to check.
And they did, you know, those women, they didn't all stay in the department. Many of them ended up quitting because it was too
Hard.
much, really hard. Brenda is an example of resilience that to me is just remarkable. I first of all, I can't even
Resilience.
imagine being a
Yeah.
firefighter in the first place. Like, you
Right.
have to be resilient just to do
Why?
that job.
Why would you want it? Right.
Why,
But
why
I mean,
would you want it?
like, that's my mindset. I don't want
I
to run into a
know.
building and save people. I like, but where's the barricade? Okay, stand behind that. Okay, good. I'm happy
Right.
now. I'll watch.
It takes a really special person to want to
Right.
even have that job, you
Right.
know.
They
And
say
then
that about police officers too. It takes a
for
special type of
sure,
person to want that job. They're saying it for
yeah,
negative reasons now. You know what I mean? They're not saying
they
because they're
are.
heroic. They're saying it for the other reason, that they want to be empowered over human beings. But they don't say that
Well,
about the
yeah.
firefighters. And they might say there's some greed going on historically with that profession. You know, back in the day, they used to rob the houses and put the fires out at the same time.
Well,
You
and
know, but
there are like that theory that the biggest arsons are actually firefighters because they set the fire for the thrill of putting it out.
asked to,
But
for that
I
matter.
think,
Yeah.
you know, this is like fringe people.
Fringe.
Yeah.
But not the resilient part of it, because even
Right.
I can understand there'll be stories about, you know, the plebe male firefighters being, you know, where's my oxygen in the middle of a fire, because they depleted it, because they do that shit to people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When I was in the army, it was horrible. It was really bad the way they treated privates, the jokes they would play on you. You know, go get the batteries for the chem lights from the supply sergeant, and you would go and you'd run into the supply sergeant and say, hey, I need chem light batteries. And they would just treat you like a fool, because chem lights don't come with batteries. You know, it's chemicals. You
Oh,
snap them and they
geez.
light. And you're like this dummy looking for the key to area 51 or something. I need the key to area. And that's just like this big open space in the back 40 or whatnot. And they do that stuff to people.
Yeah.
It's, you know, rite of passage. How you
Yeah.
take it could seem brutal, but at the same time, you need to go through it for whatever reasons. I imagine that
Yeah, I
woman who
feel like
ran that football.
everyone has their own, there's like a set of criteria for all of these groups that have things like this, you know.
I don't know.
Like
Yeah.
even the sororities and fraternities, and
Right.
it's all over the place.
But is that unfair? As there should be less of that, right? Because I know the Army wanted to get rid of
Yeah,
that stuff. They said
I
no more
just
blood wings. Don't, you know, when you went to aerosol school, you would get your wings and you would stand in a line, and they would put the naked barbs of the metal wings against your chest. And as you're, you know, as the cadre and whatnot would pass, and they, you know, slap you in the chest, and it was called your blood wings. It was something that happened. They'd grab your boob and shake the thing into it or whatnot. It was brutal. It sucked, but it
right.
was something that they did. They want
You
to do
should
away with
talk.
it.
You should talk to my husband is also an Army vet,
Okay.
and like I have no experience with anything like that, but the stories to me are like, why would people do this to each other? I
Uh,
don't get it. I was never an
the
athlete.
nature of the Army is ridiculous anyway, isn't it? I mean, the idea
Yeah,
of, hey, I'm going to pick up this gun just by chance that I'm going to aim it at somebody who has political differences with your,
right.
because, you know, your opposite president or whatnot. It has nothing to do with me. If I go to war and fight somebody, I don't really care. I just wanted the college money or whatnot.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just,
That's why he went. I mean, it was the idea of going to school. You got to go to school, and I mean, there's so many wonderful benefits. But I wonder about that behavior, the treatment
oh, it changed you.
in
Yeah.
groups like that. It's and
Well,
it's mind-boggling to me.
and what's interesting about the woman, and I keep saying the woman, the firefighter, because I am horrible with names. What was her name again?
Brenda
Sarah?
Berkman.
Brenda Berkman.
Hmm.
I mean, she didn't. You said she was a lawyer. It's interesting,
Yeah,
right? She saw something that needed to be done, and she said, "I'm not a lawyer anymore. I'm a firefighter."
yeah.
That's interesting, right? That's like
It is.
it's not like when I was in the Army, I was going for college money. It takes a little bit of the heroics out of it, doesn't it? It's not selfless. I'm doing it for a reason. You know, maybe some of the firefighters are doing it for retirement or for the medical or for whatever
Oh, it's a
reason.
great, yeah, it's a great, as
Yeah,
far as benefits go, it's a really great profession.
she didn't need that. She
Um,
potentially gave up a partnership on a law firm and millions of
y-
dollars.
yeah, was she, you know, she grew up as an athlete and she loved physicality. the show the physicality of being a firefighter. And she started off being a lawyer because she just wanted to do good. She wanted to make change. She wanted to help people. But the reality of that job is paperwork. There's no physicality involved. And I think that when the fire department opened up and said women could apply, she was so enticed by the idea of helping people and also having this physical job, and it's demanding and it's challenging. There's always these new problems that you have to go through and solve and whatever. But I have to say, like, after reading about firefighters in general and that persona, like what draws people to that job is primarily the idea of helping people.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, which
I really
I think is,
like, when they have the firefighter test in the city and like 500 people sign up for 12 spots, like,
they want to
I'm
be
so
heroes.
jaded in my mind. I think that they want to sign up for the retirement. I really do. I don't think it's more about anything more than that.
I'm sure that that's part of it. I mean,
but I mean, why?
But I mean, you're not gonna run into a burning building if you don't want to help people.
No, that's very true.
I mean, or like for 9/11. I mean,
forget about Brenda, like 100 floors of those guys died on.
Oh my God. Yeah. And Brenda, she was not even on that day and she went anyway. It's just a personality that I find incredibly, and it's like, I'm just inspired by it. I admire it. I could never do it.
Maybe that's what that freaks me out. Is that at 17, 18 years old, I volunteered to do that. And then I saw names on the wall of people who did do that, the thing that I volunteered for, and it kind of freaked me out, looking at these 19, 20-year-old kids that aren't anymore because they dove on a grenade or, drove their truck in a heroic way or whatever they did to earn their name on that wall. It's like, oh my God, dude, I don't know if I want to do that.
It's amazing. Yeah. I'm not that brave. I'm not that selfless. I mean, I'm not that young and naive.
You're writing about it, right? I mean, this woman, is she doing it because she wants to be a hero, or does she see something that needs to be done for women?
It was both for Brenda. I mean, she really wanted the job. Yeah. I mean, she just really wanted to do it. And then when she saw the problems, then she really wanted to help, more people do it. And the more she was involved in it, the more she did help other women. She organized a whole group, of women firefighters during her career so that they could support each other and be like, we can get through this. Like, we can do this job. There's no reason that we can't do this job. We're all physically capable, mentally capable, and we're going to support each other. And she made a lot of changes in firefighting in the city in general. And there's a whole organization now of women firefighters. The name of it is escaping me, but where they actually train women to prepare them to take the exam and the physical test. One of the things that people don't realize about firefighting, and I didn't at all until I began this journey, is that you are not expected to be a firefighter when you test. Like, they don't expect you to know how to save someone or how to take care of a burning building when you test. They're testing you to see that you will be trainable to be a firefighter. So yes, you have to be strong, you have to be smart, you have to be quick, but you don't have to be, I don't know, some Olympic athlete or the strongest of the strongest or whatever. You just have to show that you have the capacity to be trained to do this job. And I think that that's something that, like, a lot of people just assume you have to be really strong, but that's really not the case. You have to show that you have this adaptability and that they're going to be able to teach you how to be a firefighter, because it's a training job.
Chances are there's a layer above where you are anyway, no matter how strong you are going into
exactly.
They're going to say, okay, that's great. You scored a 60%. Now go for the 70 percentile. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's how it's structured, kind of, in a way. Like, there's always something to reach for. The brass ring's a little out of your reach.
Yeah, and it's just not all about strength. It's also about problem solving and making decisions and things like that. So it's it's a pretty holistic test. It's not just I can do 10,000 push-ups.
It's amazing what we've done, right? I mean, that's since like Roman times that we've kind of built up the ability to manipulate people into doing what we want through this kind of training regimen. The end of fire department training, you know how to do these things because you're striving for it.
Right.
So to get back onto your library of works, you said you have 5 books published. So it's the Titanic book, Gloria Steinem. I forgot her name already. The firefighter
Brenda,
lady.
Brenda Berkman.
Brenda Berkman. And
Yeah,
then
Brenda
what are
Berkman.
the
And
what
then
are the
I
other 2
have
books?
the other 2. It's called a duology, and basically it's a first book and then a sequel, and that's called the Dare Sisters, and it's also slightly historical fiction, I guess. It takes place on Ocracoke Island, North Carolina, which is in the Outer Banks, and that is where Blackbeard the pirate died. And there's a tremendous amount of pirate history off of the Outer Banks. And
Is
so
that the
it's about,
one where there's like this underground kind of thing happening and they can't get into it because they're making the cave in worse and there's potentially like pirate booty down there? Is
underground,
that
I
someplace
don't,
else? No.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think underground, because this is like, the Cape Hatteras is like this like teeny little sliver. I don't think there's anything underground. You couldn't have an underground, but
It might be in
like
Canada. It might be Nova
like the
Scotia, one of those islands up there.
yeah, I mean
Thinking
the
about.
whole coast is just, there's all kinds of pirate
Pirate stuff is just
history
cool.
everywhere. Yeah, but the Outer Banks was a big place because Blackbeard kind of camped out at Ocracoke, and then he ended up being captured and killed there. So anyway, I grew up visiting the Outer Banks. I love the Outer Banks. I love Ocracoke. It's one of the most interesting little villages. It's very touristy now, but
Oh, I want to go
it's
so
just,
bad now.
it's such a cool little
I want to go
island.
anywhere. I just want
You
to
should,
leave and
yeah.
go.
Well, go like off season. Go like we're actually going in October.
Oh, okay.
Because it's, then you have less people to have to deal with. But it's just such a cool area. But anyway,
Pirate
it's
history in October though would
yeah,
be totally cool.
it is, and they actually have a whole pirate festival on Ocracoke in October. It's super cool. They do like a whole reenactment of Blackbeard, and Robert Maynard is the man who killed him, and this whole thing. It's really fun. My husband and I went a couple of years ago and had a blast. And then Hurricane Dorian hit and really massacred Ocracoke, so it's taken quite a hit. So this will be our first time back since then. But anyway, the story is about 3 little girls who grew up on the island, and their grandfather was always trying to find Blackbeard's treasure, which is kind of a legend there. And really everyone knows that there's no treasure on the island, but the girls want to prove that their grandfather was right. And so it's like a treasure hunt, a girl adventure story, which is, I like, it's really important to me because a lot of times adventure stories are boys. And
Yeah.
so, this is like 3 little girls who are out on this adventure and fighting the bad guys and stuff. So, but there's a tremendous amount of pirate history that's legit as well.
I grew up in Florida on the Gulf Coast, like pirates and Spaniards and
Yep.
Native Americans. I love it, man. I was thinking about this recently too. My mom, when I was a kid, used to let me canoe out to the Gulf and fish and camp out on islands and stuff. So these girls have that same kind of freedom from their parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd let my kids have that much freedom.
Well, it's a different world. And this book takes place in 1996 because that's when the Queen Anne's Revenge was actually discovered, which is one of Blackbeard's ships.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's wrapped into the story. So I set it in that year, which it makes it easier for me as a writer because I don't want to write about cell phones and, like, kids today have a very different experience than like what we had when we were children. And but also historically, I love tying all of that stuff into actual historical events. So it has, I guess, historical fiction has kind of become a thing. I don't really.
It comes around, doesn't it? Because I wanted to get you to admit that it has to be some kind of love of historical fiction, because there's nothing that you've written so far that doesn't play in history and doesn't play in fiction.
Yeah, it's true.
Because you're not writing a memoir.
It's really strange too.
Of Berkman.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not writing memoirs. You're writing fiction.
Okay. No. Yeah. Yep. Well, I mean, the biographies are nonfiction, but
they're nonfiction.
But it's still, yeah, it kind of all fits together, I guess. And then I have another book that
but you don't
I can't talk
fiction.
about, but
you don't consider historical fiction.
Well, it's not.
That can't
it's
in the
such
same
a
world, creative writing
there's
and
such a fine line. It is a
Mhm.
really fine line between claiming that it's historical fiction and saying it's fiction. Like, I would not put my books in the category of historical fiction, because that means I can't change. There's very certain things that you cannot change. So I'm using Blackbeard, I'm using pirate history, I'm using Ocracoke, but I would not say that this book is historical fiction, because
You
I'm
put it in
also
1996.
doing a
That
lot of
is what.
things on my own.
But no, no, you put it in 1996 though. That's what makes it
Yeah.
historical fiction. Like if you put
Yes.
it in 2020 or whatever, couple of years ago, I would not count that as historical fiction. But
Well,
because you're
that's
going
true.
back more than 25 years, then you're
Oh
playing
God.
with an idea of a whole world that you're kind of reinventing that's already gone by. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting parallel. The Titanic book, it's a chapter book, you said, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah,
that's a little bit younger, and it was meant to be the first book of a series, but I am not sure that they're continuing it. That was a different kind of project. It was not traditional publishing. It was like a work for hire project,
interesting.
which was really fun, because you basically collaborate with a bunch of people, and it's kind of like similar to writing for TV, I guess, where you have a
Mhm.
writer's room and everyone kind of throws around ideas. And um, so that was kind of a little bit more of a collaborative project, but so far that's the only book that's out. So I don't know if there's going to be more, but yeah, that's like
That's
light
Macmillan.
historical fiction.
Did I read that right? Was it Macmillan or was that Simon
That one,
Schuster?
no, that one is actually with a digital publisher called Epic.
Epic.
And then Andrew McNeil's actually picked it up for print.
Okay.
So it is both online. There's an app called Epic, which is like a highly used Scholastic digital
Scholastic.
press.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then after it came out on that, then a traditional publisher picked all of them up. It was like an original. I don't know.
That's that
That one's hard to explain.
that's really cool though. How did you end up in the path of that or on the path to that being completed, being a part of that team?
Well, there's a ton of, I mean, IP projects, especially for children, is like a huge thing. And especially when you're talking about anything that's educational,
Hmm.
chapter books, the really early readers, um, a lot of stuff like that is actually a work for hire situation, where they find you and they say, hey, we have this project that we want to do. Here's the idea, here's the synopsis. Would you write it? And you just get hired, and sort of just like doing a freelance job. Here's a flat fee, you write this book, you don't get royalties from it. If they were to turn it into a movie, you wouldn't see any money from it. It's just simply an assignment. But it's great because it just kind of keeps an income happening.
Oh, I
So
actually have a publisher that does that to me every once in a while. I'll get a prompt. Hey, you
yeah.
want to write this prompt? And I'll go, sure. And I'll write them a couple thousand words and a check
And
will
then they
arrive.
pay you. Yeah, and that's a
Mm.
great way to just kind of keep things rolling.
I want more of those
um,
things. I mean, they found you, you didn't find them. Or would you recommend reaching out to places like that and saying,
you
hey,
I don't know how you find stuff like that on your own.
yeah,
This was an opportunity with an editor who I knew.
interesting.
And yeah, so it was a little bit different. Like, I didn't find them, they found me, but I knew who the editor was. And then it just kind of
See,
all
that's not fair. You're a nice person. People like you. They want to do nice things for you. You know what I mean? It just puts people like me at a disadvantage, you know?
you have to make
Me,
a lot of you have to make
yeah,
a lot of connections. You really
we
do.
do.
And one of the things I learned after I got my MFA, so I graduated with my MFA in 2014. Excuse me. I went back to school, as an older adult.
Hmm.
And when I graduated, I really did put every egg in the basket. And I said, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to get published. And I signed with an agent about a year after I graduated. And then it took a while. I mean, I had a few books go out on sub that nobody bought. And for a while I thought, this is the stupidest idea I ever had. And then it just starts to all fall into place. And I think a big part of it, for me anyway, and I think for my husband as well, is just you grab every single opportunity and you meet as many people as you can. Our MFA program was definitely a huge part of that, because it was all people writing for kids.
Hmm.
And so,
Oh,
you're
interesting.
automatically, your web of connections is huge just by doing something like that. So it's just, it kind of just grows and grows and grows.
What made you want to write for children?
I guess mostly I was always writing since I was really young. I was always just, I was a journaler, writing stories. I'd be like, I was the kid hiding out in my room with a notebook and a pencil. I mean, I just always loved writing. I never really thought about being an author until I actually had my own kids. And I was reading to them all the time, and something just clicked with the books. You know, I just was like, this just seems like so much fun, you know. And I was a huge reader as a kid. I loved books so much when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too.
And the idea of connecting with other kids that way, or like doing kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like a circular thing. You know, the
You're a
idea.
loner though, as a kid, then you like books, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I was a total loner.
Right?
I'm
Isn't it
still a
interesting?
loner.
As an adult, you're reaching out to those same people, kind of going, you don't have to be alone. I'm here for you. I'll be your guru. Did I lose you? Hello?
Did we disappear?
Oh, there you are. We must have had
I
a
don't know what
sunspot
happened.
or something.
I don't know what happened.
I said something inappropriate and you put me on mute and cursed me out for 15 seconds.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Hey,
No,
this guy, how much longer is this interview going to take?
So wait, I want to ask you a question,
Sure.
actually. So how did you, like, what prompted you to start a podcast like this?
I like talking to authors. I always wanted to. My fantasy when I first heard of the internet was to be able to reach out to people that do certain things like astrophysics and this type of medicine or whatnot, and have a nice long conversation with them about their stuff. And it just never materialized. And a few years ago, somebody tweeted out they were offering interviews on their podcast. So I said, okay, interview me. I'm a writer. And I kind of got the bug of doing it. And it was so easy to find people to talk to. You do the same thing I do.
Yeah, and you can just like talk with anyone from all walks of life. You don't have to go anywhere, which is fantastic.
I mean, it was a giant headache learning how to put it on the internet in a way where it was an actual podcast.
Right.
You know, a lot of people say here it's a YouTube video and it just stays like that, but there's like another level to making it a podcast. And oh my God, it hurts so bad. But now it's a podcast and I can never get rid of my website because of that. So it's all good. and you know, it gives me, now I have the history of having the conversations. So when I reach out to a new author or new artist or a new person that I'm interested in hearing from, it gives me, you know, a little bit of clout. So
yeah.
I just keep going. I try to keep it as live as possible. And, you know, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I reach out to Jessica Rinker, can I have a conversation with you? You're like, why? But then you look at who I talked to and you're like, okay, it kind of makes sense, I guess. I guess I offer that guy something that would be an hour's worth of entertainment for somebody.
Well, I think I mean, on my end, I've done a few podcasts. Usually it's like a friend or a friend of a friend, or, you know, something in the kidlit world, which is kidlit is, you know, writing for children. But I actually really like it on my end too, because I feel like I get to meet somebody new, have a new conversation that I would not be having because I'm just kind of in my house all day, every day, especially right now.
Exactly.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
I have tried to get out of speaking to only science fiction authors and fantasy authors, and they tend to be incredibly boring. Because they don't want to give away any of their secrets. You know, they don't want to spoil their books or anything. So I'm like, I want to talk about all the nuts and bolts, but they don't want to give me anything. So I branched out and I just talked to. I don't know what happened that your name ended up in front of me though, because I looked at your wall and I didn't see anything that would have led me to your bio. So somebody must have tweeted out something about you and the characters that, or the people that you're writing about. And that influenced my decision to write about you. You've received a reward lately or something along those lines, or no?
Nope.
No? I think it's fascinating because, I mean, right now in today's day and age, if I'm looking at somebody who's writing about women's rights in the workplace, I want to talk to them, right? I want to talk to somebody who has.
It's timely.
Yeah, it's timely. Your opinion, I think, matters right now, whether you're writing for women or not, or girls or not, young girls or not. You're writing about something that kind of matters going forward. What does it mean to be a firefighter? whether you're female or you're male. I mean, like you said, that physical requirement to get in doesn't necessarily bar you from doing something that'll aid your team or save a life.
Right. Right.
The military changed their physical requirements just recently. They broadened it. So when I was in, it was just push-ups, sit-ups, and run. And that's all they required us to do. And now they have all these different tests to determine how in shape you are. And it really sucked. And I was always horrible at the run. I was just a miserable runner.
I can't even imagine.
Running 15:54, that was like the slowest that I could be, and I could barely make it. I nailed the push-ups and the sit-ups. And I just couldn't run the distance they wanted me to and the speed they wanted me to run it in. Bad knees from football, I just maybe lazy attitude when it came to running. But if they wanted me to run a marathon, give me some time, I'd be able to do that at my own pace. Psychologically, exercise is interesting. They should use it.
It is interesting because I am the farthest thing from an athlete. I've always been physically active as a person, but like doing something, not sports, not exercising, but just being active. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but anyway, I'm always amazed by the level of physicality that people have, because I was like a band kid, a theater kid, a writer, a reader, like everything I did didn't really require that kind of, theater does require some physicality, but not a whole lot. But when I think about
Band
like,
does. Band requires a lot of physicality. You guys, I don't know if you did the field marching thing or not.
I did. I was in marching band, but I was like, I twirled rifles,
My high school sweetheart did the same thing. That stuff's hard
really?
too. Yeah.
It was hard. I damaged my wrist in high school and it never actually repaired.
Yeah, she used to let me twirl her little rifle thing, and I hurt myself all the time. I was kind of being
land on your head.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, she was impressive too. It was like, that was the coolest thing in the world. Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah.
She gained a lot of weight after high school too, so I think that thing was like keeping her down. You know what I mean? That's like, it's really hard to walk those fields. I think you're doing it, but at the end of the day, now your doctor wants you to step and walk and move and throw things in the air.
I can walk. I can handle walking. That's about it.
I'm a jogger. I've been a jogger my whole life, and just recently I've been having a hard time with joint pain. Unfortunately, I'm 43, so joint pain is my issue. So I'll be okay for like a few weeks. I'll be, oh yay, I'm getting in shape again, and then I'll have a horrible joint pain for like, put me down again.
For sure. So it's funny because I'm 40. Well, I'm almost 45, and I always am trying to find like some kind of little exercise routine, because I don't like being sedentary. I can't really say that word, but I like to be moving. I like to walk. I like to take my dogs out. I like to garden, things like that. But especially after moving, because now we don't have a town that we walk in. There's no gyms anywhere. So, you can't even join a gym here. So I'm like trying to figure out what's a good exercise thing that I could do in my house. So I started yoga, which I've always wanted to try. And of course, after 2 weeks, injure myself. And I'm like, I can't even do yoga. It's like,
so do it after you stop being injured. The hard thing is you don't have somebody like adjusting you,
Yeah.
I need to be in a room with other people so that when I fart, they look at me and judge me so I don't do it. It's hard. I couldn't do it on my own, because if I needed to do that, I would just get up and walk, do it, no problem. The classroom, you're keeping it all in. You're like, I like yoga. Yoga is one of my favorite activities.
I've really been enjoying it, but I have to like take a little step back because I really hurt my hip. So
you hurt your hip?
Yeah.
I was thinking wrist or something.
No, I think I just pinched something, and it's not too bad now, but for like a week or so, I could hardly move. And then I got on the treadmill, and I think I unpinched whatever it was. But I just think it just gets harder as you get older.
Instead of a vaccine for COVID-19, we should have a vaccine for getting out of shape.
For age?
Well, actually, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
There is a study on death. They want to fix it. I love that subject.
They want to fix death.
They want to fix death.
Did you live in New York City all your life?
No, I grew up in Florida. My dad was in the Army, so I kind of base hopped a little bit, and then they divorced, and I grew up in Florida.
Okay. Most of my family is in Florida, actually, near Ocala.
Ocala, Port Richey,
okay.
Gulf, near Tampa, just north. like I said, my childhood was amazing. Like I had the water in a canoe. We ate crabs and fish. It's basically
That
the
is
entire
amazing.
time. Next door neighbor was a shrimper. Back when they actually had shrimp, we could just knock on his door. He'd give us bags. And then we'd sit over the sink and devein them and deshell them. And Ocala was fantastic. We loved that place. All the springs up in that area. I miss
Yeah.
Florida. I don't think I could live there again though. It's too hot, miserable.
Yeah, I don't think I could live there, but I really love going down there. And
I did not realize that Florida had a reputation.
what, like the Florida man thing?
Yeah, the Florida. I did not know that was a thing. Like when I was a kid, my mom said, "Don't, people down here, you don't know, their brains are like roasting in the sun or something." That's what she would say. So they're a little bit crazy, okay? You don't know what they're gonna do. Kind of give them a little bit of distance. And then I left, and it turns out that's a thing. It's a Florida man. They're completely retarded everywhere, or not retarded. You know what I mean? The word that I'm allowed to say.
It is a very interesting state.
It's a very interesting place to have grown up. I mean, honestly, I'm very happy that that's the place I got to call home for as long as I did. And my wife refuses to go. That's how bad it is.
Really?
Yeah, the Florida man freaks her out.
Oh, I really love Florida. I love visiting. I don't know that I could live there, but
It's cheap too. I don't know about as cheap as West Virginia, but it's cheap.
It's not. It's definitely not as cheap as West Virginia, but it's but you got the beach. That's the thing. I don't know. I'll have to get back out to a coast. Like I love being in New Jersey, and even when I was in Pennsylvania, I was just like
There's
right
not
across the river.
one single person that has ever said that in the history of the state of New Jersey.
What? That I like New Jersey?
Yeah, you miss being in New Jersey. I used to live in New Jersey too.
Well, this is the thing about New Jersey. One of the best kept secrets of New Jersey, which isn't really a secret, is Hunterdon County. Hunterdon County, New Jersey is like in the top 3 most expensive counties in the nation to live in.
All right.
Which is why we cannot buy a house there, because you literally have to be like a neurosurgeon or like Elizabeth Gilbert lived in Frenchtown.
It makes you feel any better. Nobody can afford to buy houses anywhere.
No one could buy a house in Manhattan. No one could buy anything in the tri-state area. It's not.
No, it's ridiculous.
You have to have a very specific. Yeah, California.
California, not even California, everywhere. Texas.
You can buy a house in West Virginia. I promise you that.
There are places in Huntington that you could buy for a couple $1,000 bucks. That's how bad things are there. And then you wonder, do you really, really want to live there or not?
Well, that was the thing. Like we originally were going to be buying a house in Virginia. That was a little bit closer to like Harrisonburg, Charlottesville, college towns. There's stuff going on, and the house did not go through because we were getting a VA loan, and it was just like the appraisal was way too low, and so we just had to scramble. I mean, we were essentially homeless at that point because we were just renting before we weren't selling a house. So we had to leave because our lease was up. And my husband ended up getting a job at the college here in West Virginia, and just kind of all unfolded from there. But I can't imagine living in this state and relying on the economy.
What economy?
It's not. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And both of us earn a lot of money from writing.
And you can't even say like coal, because they haven't had a coal industry for like more than 2 decades.
No, there's hardly any there. I mean, there's still some open, but it's not really a thing that much anymore.
It's a fantasy. So, people talk about it.
Yeah, but there are definitely some towns. There are definitely some towns around us that are revitalizing and embracing the tourist industry, because there's so many people from DC that come in and they stay here for the weekend, whatever. They go hiking, whitewater rafting, all the stuff, and they spend a tremendous amount of money. And so there are several small towns that they're totally capitalizing on that. And that's actually really encouraging because it's very artistic. Mm-hmm. There's little galleries opening up and coffee shops and bookstores and things like that. So
I'm just hoping that people like yourself and myself and more remote commuting type jobs open up to be prosperous.
Yeah.
It's like corporate America seems to be ratcheted down. The internet's not as free as it once was. And I mean, would you consider doing indie publishing now, or would you maintain, you're pretty much a traditional girl, aren't you?
Yeah. All other than the Titanic book, everything's just traditional.
You wouldn't consider that traditional, because I mean, it was actually purchased by somebody and you made money with it, right? I mean, that's
I mean, it's traditional. It's just not like, I mean, when I first set out on the whole idea, I was very set on like, I want to be with the big five. And the only way to do that is to have an agent, because you can't just send your book to Random House. You know, it doesn't work like that. So
No, I know.
I took that route, and it was really hard because it took a while to finally get a sale. And the Gloria Steinem book was that first sale. But once you get in the door, your opportunities start to open up. The pandemic is definitely putting a major it's like stalling out. I fear that it's stalling out because you can't go to the conferences, you can't go, you can't even do school visits. When you write for children, you frequently go to schools and do a little assembly and things like that. We can't do that. We can't go to the big teacher and librarian conferences, which are really important when you write for kids, because kids aren't buying books, but teachers and librarians are, you know.
And they're writing the lists and they're writing the blogs and
right, exactly. You need to get out and meet those people, and we can't do that. So I don't know, it's like right now is a whole different thing.
And they're talking about another year of it too. I mean, I know we're reaching the hour mark of our conversation, and probably have better things to do than talk to me for the remainder of your afternoon. But I mean, have you started to put your mind towards what that means? I mean, for a year from now, this is what it's going to be. Things are going to be kind of hitching and stopping and starting, and people are like, "Oh, what's going on?" And I mean, the unfortunate thing is that $400 stimulus package. You know what I mean? Just nobody's getting anything. They're not getting what they need, jobs or.
Well, and I was adjuncting here in West Virginia for like undergrad, and I actually lost that job because the enrollment is so low. So,
oh, really? The enrollment? I was going to say maybe they're just doubling up classes.
They just I don't say kids, but students are not enrolling because this year has been so traumatic for everybody.
I'm a speculative fiction author. It makes me think about the future a lot, and I wonder what it's going to be like. I mean, it's so important to have like continuous education, not taking giant gaps, you know. And now kids are potential. I mean, they're talking about maybe school opening up again. Like kids are going to have kindergarten, and that's a big thing. We want them to go and small classrooms, half a time or whatever. And
I know. I have my oldest is in his senior year of college. And it's all online. So he decided that he and his girlfriend were just going to get an apartment, and they're going to take care of themselves. And, you know, so he just like flew the nest. But, you know, like all the young people right now have to make a lot of big decisions, because this is like nothing any of us have ever seen.
Your oldest is a senior in college. You said all of your guys are in college.
My oldest is about to turn 22. And then we have my daughter is graduated, but not in school. She's just working. And then we have my husband's oldest has graduated and is about to start school. And then we have 2 in high school as juniors and an 8th grader.
Well, that's a lot of kids. That's 6. They count 6 or 5.
Yes. There's 6, but they don't all live with us full time. We're a blended family. So we've got 3 and 3, and they're just like all over the place. So
still, I've got 2, and it feels like they're all over me. I mean, they're closed. There are 2 doors between us right now, but I know their mother is like begging them to be quiet. I've already seen my son poke his head into the door twice. So I know they're waiting for this podcast to be over. That's why it's only an hour, because I know we can only keep them occupied for over.
Absolutely.
So I mean, what is going on with you in the future? Just to sum things up, what can we expect? We have books coming out.
Yeah, well, we have books coming out next year, and then I have, this is kind of not really public, but I actually have a TV thing in play with one of my books.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, super exciting. So hopefully it'll actually happen, because you can get an option and then nothing actually happens, but hopefully it will eventually come to fruition.
I've gotten parts on television shows where I got paychecks, and then we go to watch a television show and I'm nowhere anywhere. So believe me, I understand.
So we'll see what happens.
That's
it's
so
exciting,
cool, man.
but
How'd
you
that
never
work
know
out?
what happens.
Did that?
I ended
Did
up
anybody
with
do the work for you, or were you
yeah. Oh
doing like
yeah.
the?
No, no. I got a film agent. Well, I didn't get a film agent. My agent found a film agent, and then it kind of just all unfolded from there. But very exciting. Like talking to Hollywood producers and all that. I was like, whose life am I living?
I don't know. It's interesting.
Pretty
That's so cool.
amazing.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Again.
it was really fun. So that hopefully will come down in the future. And then I have another novel that is actually going to acquisitions this week. So hopefully I'll have a book deal announcement soon. And so, I just keep going.
Do you
just
write stuff on spec, or I mean, is it more or less your agent, you and the publisher get together and decide this is what we'd like you to produce in 6 months or so? Could you
No, I do my own. I come up with my own stuff. The only book that was like that was the Titanic book, where it was a little bit more collaborative. But everything else is so far been mostly.
Do you
just
find
me.
yourself? I mean, I write a lot. I just finished a rewrite of a novel. I have several of them that I have not done anything with. I refuse to even look for agents because it seems ridiculous. You can't even get them.
It's hard.
It's
hard.
And it doesn't even matter how good you write or how bad you write. They just like
no.
The query
it's
letters just stops you in your path.
It's about whether or not they think they can sell your book.
Yeah.
Is really what it comes down to.
And they're just a name, really, honestly. They could be anybody to you. You make the wrong decision on an agent or a publisher, and it could be like years of your life just dedicated to hell. It's a scary thing.
It is a scary thing, but I think if you do your research, and it's different when you're writing for adults, like agents that represent speculative fiction for adults, it's going to be very different than writing for kids. But I love my agent. I mean, she has gone to bat for me. She's the one that's made these deals. I come up with the ideas, and then she's like, all right, I'll find the person who will buy this idea.
That's awesome.
And that's wonderful. But it took
She's
me a
got
long
the
time.
cred to make that happen, which is the important part.
Right. And the first time I queried an agent was probably 2006 or 2007. I didn't actually get an agent until 2015. It took a very, very long time.
It's a different world from 2006 to 2015. It's 9 years difference, where you went from 2006 not having a Facebook account and the smartphone to 2015 having both. Did you feel like true. Was it a personality? Was it like a relationship that you developed with the person, or had you just sent a blank query letter and said, I wrote a book, can you read it please?
It was both, honestly. I developed relationships and cold queried so many agents. By the time I actually signed with her, I knew her, but I actually had 3 offers at that point, and I ended up going with her because I knew her, and I knew that we would work well together. So, it's definitely proved to be successful. So,
artists are not known for trust, and that's exactly what having an agent on board is, right?
It's true. Yeah. For sure.
Dude, this was a fantastic conversation. You're a wonderful person to talk to. I'm so happy that you're having such success. I don't think the quarantine's going to do anything in terms of messing anything up. You'll probably fly high after this is over. Look forward to
I hope so. Well, it's been really great. It's been really fun.
Where can people find you on the World Wide Web before we sign off for good?
I'm on Twitter. Come find me on Twitter. I don't remember my handle right now, but I'm there, just Jess Rinker. And then my website is jessrinker.com.